Hey everyone, I am Diane Falvey, the editor-in-chief of Furniture, Lighting, and Decor, and we are here today on behalf of Comm Collective for a candid conversation with some of furniture and lighting's most respected suppliers. We have Century Furniture's Vice President of Marketing, Comer Ware. Comer, wave and let everybody know where you are. We have Currey & Co.'s Director of Marketing, Jenny Heinzen York. Hello, Jenny.
Hi.
And we have Palecek's Vice President of Creative, Jean Ogden.
Hello there.
Thanks for saying hello. We're here to talk with you guys about COVID-19, how it's affecting business and how your companies have been adjusting during this time. It's really been such a challenge for everyone. We want to find out what you've been up to during lockdown, what you're planning and how you're planning to combat the loss of 2020, some of the 2020 trade shows and some of the changes that are coming for our 2020 trade shows in the second half of the year, and what heading back to the factories and offices have looked like so far. Maybe I'm going to go around to all of you and have you talk a little bit about your companies during this time, like what's happened, have you been closed, have you been open, and just some of the adjustments maybe you've had to make first, and then we can go into our questions. Jean, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, as you guys probably know, San Francisco was the first city to put the shelter in place. So it's been quite a while. But we quickly shifted gears. It was very impressive. When we think about all the different departments and teams that interact with our clients every day, that would be customer service or our hospitality team, etc. These people would be coming to our office, which is based here in San Francisco Bay Area, where we also have our factory. And so we quickly regrouped and set everybody up so that they could work remotely. So for example, my marketing team, they didn't have laptops. They didn't have all the programs that they work on all the time. They would come to the office. So we got them all set up. We got all of customer service and, like I said, the other departments. So we were able to stay in communication with our clientele and, including our office overseas, did the same thing for them. So it was a lot of, I think in one day we got between 45 or 50 laptops.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be able to do that today, but that's great.
I know. We thought fast.
Jenny, how about with Currey? What things did you guys put in place? What did you change to kind of?
Yeah, the suddenness was sort of the same for us, but not because there was any law that came down in Georgia. We tend to be a little behind around here. But instead, early in March, we actually had an employee who was tested for COVID. He ended up being negative, but we didn't know that. So the minute we heard he had been tested, we immediately shut down, sent everybody home, get out. We stayed closed for a few days to have a thorough cleaning, and it took a while to get those test results back, actually. So in some ways, it was a great thing for us because it forced us to pull the plug, where with Georgia laws, we may not have really been forced to do it in such an immediate manner. So that made us really have to. We'd been having conversations and talking about what life could look like without a high point, and who could work from home and who couldn't. And so it wasn't completely out of the blue, but it still made us move probably a week faster than we maybe would have otherwise. At that point, once we did get things cleared and felt pretty good about sending people back, we brought in a voluntary force to keep our warehouse running. So to keep our shipping and receiving going, we cut that way, way, way down. So just a handful, the bare minimum of humans we could have in the space, invested in masks and multiple times a day cleaning, as much PPE as we have been able to find, and pretty strict regulations on who we let in, and the rest of us really haven't been back. So it's been a quick change, but one that we really, I think, embraced and did well with.
It's great. Great. Comer, how about at Century? How have you guys fared during this crisis?
I think I can echo certainly what Gina and Jenny have both said about the pace at which this all came at everybody. We were sitting in, meetings talking about what market might look like with a reduced headcount, and then switched quickly to we're shutting down our factories, which I don't know that I can ever remember us literally taking our factories down dark.
Wow.
Fortunately, our senior executive team was, amazing and was able to work with all of our associates in terms of helping them file for unemployment. That was our biggest concern, obviously, in shuttering our factories is what happens to the 1,500 associates that depend on us for that paycheck. So they were able to work through early enough. Actually, it was before the state had, mandated a shutdown. So it was early enough that a lot of our associates were able to get through to the unemployment websites. Obviously, that has been a real problem, I think, for a lot of people.
Yes.
And so then, we were down for 3 weeks. We had brought in, like Jenny said, we brought in a critical group to run our customer service and also receiving goods, because although we shut down our factories, there was still a ton of product coming in that we couldn't shut down that was coming from the ports. And so we literally had executive staff, my brother and, our CFO unloading tractor trailers. And then we did bring in the crew to start making masks, utilizing the upholstery operation that we had to create PPE and some masks. We're able to supply masks to all of our associates and their families, and then try to take care of some smaller needs in our community, which there have been so many silver linings coming out of this, but I think that's been a big one, is just being able to help where we could. We were able to put our trucks to work carrying groceries for MDI, which is a local grocery fulfillment. So we felt like even though we couldn't be making furniture, we could at least do something, which was nice.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that. And just to our audience right now, we just wanted to let you know that if you have questions, please fill in your questions in the Q&A section, and we will answer them at the end of the call at about quarter to 5. So let's pivot to something a little more about the consumer, right? They're all staying at home right now as a result of this crisis. And they're in their homes and they're looking at the same four walls. And we think that we're hearing a lot that they may be looking for home furnishings when the world opens back up again, and evaluating what they've got and what they want to change. Do you think that this new way of living will help the consumer understand the importance of purchasing lasting, quality heirloom pieces? Comer, we'll start with you. You think they're going to look more for quality and more for like a higher end, something that's going to really, you have to sit on a couch for a really long time, a sofa for a really long time.
Certainly. I mean, I think,
For a really long time. Is that changing?
All of this for us is that, we were all at home spending a ton of time in all of our spaces. I've talked to a few designers that, even themselves are discovering rooms in their houses that they'd never really been in before. And so I think the challenge, even before this started, was getting consumers to understand and invest in luxury. And I think in some ways that this crisis, it certainly has made everybody reflect on what we hold near and dear. And, connections, I think, rank highest in that kind of grouping. And, at least I know personally what I've discovered. I mean, my dining room table, I am eating at it every night right now with my family, which never happened prior to this crisis, because we were always going, to scouts or wherever, whatever the activity was. And so I'm so thankful that, I have a dining room table that can hold my family, all of us. And I think a lot of people had built, talking about kitchens and things, place spaces that were beautiful, but maybe not necessarily functional. And I think that probably a lot of people are rethinking those decisions and thinking about, how do I make my space truly work for me and my family? So I hope so.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it's more than just the heirloom mindset. I don't think consumers really think that way anymore, but I do think it's about function and meeting the needs of the moment. And, anecdotally from other friends in the industry, these are not necessarily Currey's categories, but dining is selling really well. Outdoor is selling really well. Home office is selling really well. Bedroom, not so much, because most of us have a bed. but not everybody has a dining table, or not everybody has a decent outdoor space. And a lot of us didn't have a home office when this all started.
Right.
So I think it's more category specific, but I see a real upside for all of us coming out of this in the fact that, I know I've canceled my summer vacation, and most everybody else has. We're not going to the Caribbean. We're not going to Disney World. So, what do you do with that little nest egg that you'd set aside for that? And it's very logical that you would spend that on the place that you're now spending all your time in your home.
Mm-hmm. Well, from a lighting perspective, because Currey, of course, is lighting, what types of things are you seeing your customers are, as they're purchasing? I'm sure some are. What are they looking for?
We have had pretty steady sales across the board because we do work with designers, and designer businesses really seem to hold up. Our retail dealers have obviously shut down. That piece of our business has taken a big hit. The designers have more than, or helped make up for that. And then our e-commerce presence, we are fairly limited in our e-commerce space, but the ones that we have been overperforming to where they had been. I can't really break it down by category, honestly, because our designers buy across the board. So we're selling just as many big, beautiful chandeliers as we are, less expensive table lamps.
Okay, great. Greg, what about a Palecek? You guys do outdoor and indoor. So what are you seeing as far as, what do you think that the consumer is going to be looking for when they come back, especially as outdoor spaces become so important?
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree with you. We just launched an outdoor brochure, a digital brochure for our showroom managers and reps for that very reason, because people are home. And I think, to Jenny's point, people are not taking their vacation. I know I canceled mine, but now you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to fix up my place. I'm not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So the outdoor space is certainly a candidate for the first, upgrade, if you will. So
that's great. That's great. So with most of the 2020 trade shows getting canceled, what are you doing to stay connected with your buyers during this time? I know there are plans for August markets and October High Point, but up until now, with April kind of out of the way, how are you staying connected with your buyers? Because what I'm hearing is that retailers, as they're coming back online, need product, and designers, as Jenny, as you said, are busy. They're working hard. So, Greg, let's start with you. How are you staying connected with your clients?
Well, that's interesting that you bring this up, because I'll tell you, the marketing department at Palecek has been working hard for the last couple of months. What we're doing is we're providing this digital marketing collateral for everyone, and it's been really successful. So keep in mind, right before we were at shelter at home, we were getting our press kit ready for High Point, and that's where our mindset was. Then once this happened, we started thinking, well, you know what? We have beautiful photography of some of our, iconic pieces. Let's put a beautiful, robust brochure together. And we launched it, and we called it the Palecek Portfolio. So it was almost kind of like our resume, like our best foot forward. And I have to tell you, it was such a success. I have a little story that I want to share with you, just one example. We have a rep team in Seattle, and they worked with the Seattle Design Center, and they did a Zoom call for like 45 designers, and they presented this Palecek portfolio. And the feedback that we were getting, the comments were so positive. I've had other people forward me emails from designers and say, oh, this is beautiful. What is this? So the digital is definitely working for us. So what we're doing is we're continuing to, we have a strategy where we're feeding the showroom managers and the reps more and more collateral. So we did the portfolio, like I just mentioned. Then we have a couple of new lighting categories, sconces, flush mounts, and outdoor chandeliers. So these are all new categories. So we did a beautiful brochure on that, and that was helpful. And then outdoor was last week, and now we're working on a hospitality brochure. So we've been busy just putting out material. And what's fun about doing it digitally, you don't have to continue, because we always print and mail out brochures, but digitally, you don't have to worry about 16 pages. You can make it 32 pages. And so, and I'm so impressed with how everybody's taken advantage of these tools and sharing it with their clients. And the designers love it. They're home, they're looking for inspiration. So that's what we've been doing.
That's great. Jenny, how about you guys? How are you staying connected to your clients since we haven't been able to meet in person at markets?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of the same things. We've also started a trend webinar that, gosh, we've done it probably 10 times now. And every time we do it, we get between 40 and 100 designers online, and that's gone really well. We've got a CEU that'll be going live in the next week or two. We've also gone a little old-fashioned, and we've started a letter writing campaign. So for some of our staff who really need to work in the office to do their jobs, we want to keep everyone employed. So we've got them all with beautiful stationery, and they're writing letters to our customers. Just let them know that we're here. And I think something that's tactile like that, it's a three-dimensional thing in this 2D world that we're living, feels kind of real and really sort of sweet. Product videos, the virtual walkthroughs for our sales reps. We had just finished our spring catalog, so that was mailed, on its normal timeline. So everyone got that piece of, that book. And yeah, it's, every day is a new day, and we're having to find new ways every day to manage it. We've doubled down on our social, but particularly our Pinterest, because Pinterest is where we're seeing the most activity in terms of our actual conversions and by far our traffic. So we're doing a lot of interesting things on Pinterest right now as well.
Oh, that's great. How about you, Comer? How are you guys staying in touch with your customers?
I have to say first, I'm taking notes on everything else that
I'm like, Pinterest, that's a good one, yes.
But we're doing the same things that they're doing. I echo exactly what Jean said about the amount of effort and energy that marketing, I think right now, is focused on, our segment of the business, which is refreshing in some ways, without High Point, that there is a conversation to be had, and, there are ways for us to connect. So we certainly are keeping in touch with our corporate showrooms, each of them in different cities. They're kind of our lifeline to the design community. Quite a few agent partners have gotten extremely creative. And just to call out one, we have a partner down in Texas, Ladco, and they hosted a mini market, put it together on their own. And, big kudos to them, Kelly Stan and Ronnie, for thinking outside and the box and, calling all their vendor partners together and producing a 3-day mini market for their design community. It was fun and collaborative, and, and I think what I find most refreshing right now is, echoing back to what Jenny said, is, you can try new things right now. People are more accepting right now of, a harebrained idea than any other time that I've been kind of involved in our marketing. And I think the personal touch that Jenny mentioned with the letter writing campaign is so true too. I mean, people, that connection, whether it's, whether we do it digitally or written or a phone call or a text, this isn't really a part of our topic, but the mental health side of this, crisis is real. And I think it's very much real for small business owners. And, as they've faced what to do with their own businesses. And so us as, their partners, I think have a lot of, we just, pulling our community together, I think is really important. And, High Point, I think, was important not just for the product, but for those connections that we all had, and the ability to look someone in the eye and even if it was only 6 months, I mean, it was a crazy family reunion, right? But it was that connection point for so many of us to laugh or cry or, share a cocktail together and lament, what just happened. So I don't know. I'm very optimistic. I rejoice in all these opportunities that are in front of us right now. I did take some notes. So guys, if you see a century portfolio or a letter writing,
Comer, are there digital, so everybody is connecting digitally, right? We're here on Zoom. I mean, did any of us really even know what Zoom was before this whole thing happened? Everything has to be done virtually right now. And I've talked to designers who are designing virtually and retailers who are still connecting with their customers virtually, even though their stores are closed. What are some of the digital things that you're trying that are working well for you, or, that you just, we're trying everything right now. Comer, let's start with you. What are some of the digital things you're doing to help support the business right now?
I think going back to pushing out content in whatever channel, because not everybody uses the same channel. So, whether that's virtual digital catalog or social media, we have also started webinar series utilizing our licensees. Charlotte Moss was kind enough to come on, and we've had Thomas O'Brien, we'll have Winsor Smith next week. So, trying to keep in front of our customers, but also being cognizant of tone. Early on, people didn't want to hear, messaging that wasn't personal and wasn't real. So my brother, our CEO, was producing a YouTube series. I mean, much like Fireside Chats, what's the state of our nation? Where are we right now? And sending those out to our own employees, many of whom may not connect via email. But they definitely have a cell phone, and sending a YouTube video, was a personal way to kind of let them know where the business was. And then also utilizing that same formatting for our customers. I have to hand it to our customer service department. They are a group of angels, and they have relationships that are very deep with our customers. So reaching out for those personal phone calls, I think, means a lot right now too. It's just been a myriad of things, really.
That's great. That's great. Jean, what about with you guys? You talked about a lot of the digital marketing initiatives that you've taken. What's something new that you're doing that surprised you that's done really well?
Well, I mean, it's kind of going back to these brochures. The reason why we didn't print them this time around is because our printers were closed. Mm-hmm. So we had to be creative. But what kind of surprised me was the success of the Palecek portfolio, and realizing after we did that, after a few weeks, I was like, we've got to keep providing, materials, a reason for us to be able to reach out to our clients. And I know that we have a really great sales rep team and showroom managers. However, I have to tell you, they are using all these tools we're producing and sharing great feedback. So that's probably something we'll keep going with, just because we're going to go back to trade shows and things like that doesn't mean that we can't continue to provide interesting and beautiful marketing collateral.
That's great. And Jenny, you talked about Pinterest and social media. Like what, did that surprise you how well Pinterest is doing for you guys? And will you continue with that even after this kind of calms down a little bit?
I think Pinterest is sort of the hidden gem that none of us really think about when we're allocating time and budgeting. But I know we're not alone in this, but if you look at our traffic numbers, it far, far eclipses any other social platform we've got. The issue for us, frankly, is that because we're B2B, we can't facilitate a transaction on our website for a customer or for a consumer. So we have partnered with some of our e-tailers, more mom and pop style e-tailers, to promote via them, so that if someone sees it and wants to buy it, they can go through it that way, okay, rather than come to our site and be frustrated by the fact that we won't sell it to them. So that's been good. Then in terms of things that we want to keep doing, we did virtual walkthroughs for our key categories. So we did furniture and accessories, lamps and lighting, and as well as the trend overview. And our reps loved it. I mean, love these, because when you go to market, especially if you have multi-line reps, so they've walked through a couple other showrooms and things become a bit of a blur and they're running to their next meeting, and taking a dedicated hour per category really allowed them to understand the product a lot better. And I know that's something we will definitely continue to do. That's not a customer facing thing, but our reps really appreciate it and help them get a much better understanding of the product in a more thoughtful way than they could get in person, actually.
What buying trends do you guys predict when trade shows do reopen, or even as we go forward and retailers reopen and designers get busier? Are you seeing anything in your communications with your customers? Are you seeing anything that that you think is going to be really, really important come fall? Jean?
Yeah, I would go back to what we started the call talking about, where everybody's staying home, they want to upgrade and they want to decorate, whether it be, the outdoor space or in the interior. I know for myself, I've done it. I just got some new bedside sconces, and I have a dining table arriving tomorrow. So I think it's going to be all the home furnishing categories, and people are going to invest in their home.
Okay. Jenny? Same question?
Yeah, I think the thing that's going to drive a lot of business for us as we head through the year is being in stock. There's some pretty substantial supply chain interruptions, and those of us who are invested in inventory and have product to sell, or have product that's still flowing in that you're able to receive and get back out the door, is really meaningful, because I think everybody's buying online right now. So, we're all trained to expect everything in a few days, and that even if it doesn't necessarily fit our business model, we can do it that way as long as we have the stuff in stock. So I think, the ones of us who have really been able to maintain inventory, and, we've got some bumps in ours too. And, we always brag about our inventory position, but, we're feeling it too because of, our overseas trading partners. But overall, I think that's going to be a big trigger, because when they've got an open to buy or they've got a project they're working on, nobody wants to hesitate and wait for the customer to back out. So they want to move quickly and get the product in their hands.
That makes sense. Comer, what are you seeing in furniture, like from a color perspective, from a style perspective, traditional versus modern? What are customers that you're seeing right now looking for? What do you anticipate they'll be looking for in the fall?
I don't know that it's as much about lifestyle, because I think certainly your home is your home. But we are seeing a huge push, and it was already growing, for performance. And certainly we see that continuing. Performance fabrics will, I think, become the need to wash and the desire to wash. We're spending some energy right now in our case goods factory looking at finishes that can be cleaned with bleach solutions. It's not something you think of, but most finishes don't really like bleach. And so rethinking those types of avenues, looking at, our slip covered product and wondering, okay, is that enough? Will slip covers, resurge as a trend? But then just in terms of style, I think comfy, thinking of like big, sectional type living that the whole family can be on. Someone said earlier, and I think that kitchen, the bar stool, counter stool business is surging. We're seeing a lot of requests for that. Certainly office, home office, desk chairs, etc. And then I think, in terms of color, there is this resurgence of vibrant color. People want to feel good, and color makes people feel good. So I think there will be, not that you can call happy a decorating trend, but we will see a lot of happy coming out of this, I hope.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of a who gives a damn if this is correct or, true to a lifestyle. If I like it, I like it. And I'm the one who lives here. So I feel like there's that moment coming. So I think there will be some liberation of color there too.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny, I think you brought up a really good point about inventory levels, because, as all of us know, a lot of factories closed, a lot of countries closed.
Right.
So the flow of the product that was already in production came to a halt in some cases. We're fortunate at Palecek because we have a wood finishing and an upholstery department. So we bring in a lot of raw goods, like, Paul rattan, for example. And so we stock our warehouse with that. And our big categories are dining, the bar stool, counter stool, and dining chairs. And so those are purchases in the multiples. So we really had to stock up. So I think that we're very fortunate to be in that situation as we wait for the rest of our new goods to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Jean, had you started restocking all of those things before, as it was starting, or like, how did you get ahead of
It's always been our model, actually, especially like the dining category or lounge chairs. The designers come to us because they can customize it. They could do a COM. And so we just always make sure that our core iconic pieces, we're in stock. And we're fortunate for that because we have that model to play off of, you know.
Benny, how about you? You talked about that too with Currey and stocking issues and things coming in. Is that starting to shift now? And what did you guys do to get ahead of that stock situation?
Yeah, I mean, there was really not much you could do at that point. You know, it takes a while. You know, what helped us is that at the time that all this started, we were at about 95% in stock. So we've drifted down a little bit, mainly because of the new April launch pieces. So normally we would go into market blazing with about 80% of that already available and ready to ship. Right now we have about half of that. So we have about 50%. So it's still coming in. You know, our primary manufacturing is in the Philippines, in our factory, and that was closed down for, gosh, probably 6 weeks. They have just started reopening. They dropped a few containers in the water that were already ready to go. They just couldn't get out of the port. So we think June is going to be a little snug for us inventory-wise, much more so than we're used to. But again, that's the difference between 80% versus 90%. So it's still not anything, you know, alarming, you know, compared to a lot of what's going on in the industry. But then we'll start to see them really starting to come in, ramp back up heavily in July.
Okay, that's great. Comer, what about you guys? How are you handling anything that would be coming in from out of the country?
You know, we are echoing what has been said. I mean, we manufacture about 75% of our product domestically. So, you know, it's that smaller percentage of goods that we inventory, and we typically do carry pretty high inventory on those items. I think the new introductions, which is interesting that Jenny brought up, and that's where for us, you know, what was planned for April, those things have gotten pushed out. But I think in many ways, you know, the new isn't as critical right now. For us, I think we're seeing a resurgence in a lot of our best sellers as people go to what they already know and what they already trust. I think, you know, I think trust is a word that's going to be really important throughout this whole summer as we support our community, design community and retail community. You know, trust that you know, we're doing what we say we're going to do, and then also trust them, you know, that when we ship goods to them, that, you know, they're solvent. And so I think that's going to be important for all of us, both with inventory levels and then also just with business, you know, and encouraging very honest and direct conversations about where people are from, you know, their business standpoint. You know, I know going into this, one of the issues we had was, you know, we weren't sure. Some states had closed down. California, for example, you know, there were places we couldn't ship product to. And the last thing we wanted to do was ship product to a designer that couldn't deliver it to her customer because we're going to invoice, you know, and so just being cognizant of that. Also the, you know, the receivable pipeline, if you will, is just as important because, you know, when we receive inventory, we're paying for it regardless of whether we've shown it and we've got sales or not. And that's true of sold orders and designer business and retail business. You know, we didn't anticipate this, but it is that will be an interesting thing coming out of this.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, you know, so you've had to make some shifts here. Like, what are some of the other new methods that you've adopted during quarantine within your company that you found are maybe a little more efficient or effective than before, and that you plan to carry through? That, you know, things that you've learned through this crisis that now you can take with you and do things better as we go forward. Comer, let's start with you since we were just talking about that.
You know, I think that we talked about communication earlier, but you know, certainly we've adopted some texting technology with our own associates and you know, outreach to our own customer base that, you know, probably made sense to be doing regularly. We're depending on our back-end portal, our designer studio, quite a bit to let customers know exactly where we stand, because even though we are back up and operating, you know, we are certain departments are running on some weeks and others aren't, as we kind of pulse through sold orders and the demand. And so, I think those communication aspects will certainly be something that we continue moving forward. And I think we will continue the marketing efforts that we've got. It's just going to be foot in two canoes at that point, because we'll be managing markets and these new initiatives, which will be a challenge, I think, for all of us. We've created some new things that are fun and people have been excited about them. And so, keeping those going in addition to all the things that we were already doing will be a challenge, I think. But it's just interesting days. I think who knows what tomorrow brings, right?
Right. Jean, what about you guys? What has Palecek learned, or what new practices are you putting in place, or have you started because of this that you'll carry forward?
I would say the same. It's going to be about the quality of the outreach, connecting with our clients, keeping them aware of what we're doing. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our customer service team. Everybody has been able to work remotely, and so they're having this ongoing, conversation and engagement with, our customer base.
Jenny, what about you guys?
Yes, I mentioned the virtual walkthroughs. We'll definitely keep those. One other sort of structural change, it's not necessarily a communication thing exactly, but we have always introduced spring and fall. And, now that we've done it without a market, we're sort of re-examining, why are we locking ourselves into these market seasons? Why don't we put it up the minute we've got it in stock? Why do we need to wait till October? If something came in July, what are we waiting for? We know how to do this online now. So I think that may be the bigger operational thing that we will stick with, because there's just no reason not to.
That's really great. How about within your working environment and in your plants and in your offices, as people start to come back online, people start to come back in, you've got a more expanded staff. What are some of the changes that you'll be making there right now to keep everybody safe? And what are some of the things that you're seeing there that might be good to keep going forward as well? Comer?
Well, we've been back up since about the last week of March. And I can say in our factories, we've implemented a lot of changes for safety and wellness. We've got mandatory temperature checks at all of our factories, in addition to mandatory masks. And those things I think will stay in place, certainly as long as the CDC recommends and the governor of North Carolina recommends. We, in addition, obviously mapped out, and which is a crazy thing to think about, our senior executive teams mapping out a factory, remapping it so that there's 6 feet as a distance between each workstation. In a sewing operation or think about other areas that are tightly kind of pulled together tightly, that is challenging. And so, those changes were real. In our corporate showrooms, we have one of them at least open right now in Florida. And, at our corporate showrooms, we are going to require temperature checks for designers that are coming, and masks as well. And, we've already had the discussion, how do you handle, customers and how they may or may not feel about, and it's, it really boils down to, it has nothing to do other than this safety. We were talking earlier, and each of us have someone in our lives that is going to be in a higher risk category. And so, it may not be our showroom manager, but it could be her partner or, someone else that they are around. And so, we feel very kind of emphatic about those things that we're doing, and the necessity of them. And I think that we'll see how much longer those things continue, but it certainly sounds like that will be in place for quite a while. And we are anticipating that October market here in High Point would look like that.
Jenny, what about for Currey? What changes have been made within the offices that are different, that may go forward, and even in your showrooms? What do you anticipate there as well?
So in the offices, really all of us office workers, for the most part, have not gone back. We may have, we usually have one senior manager in every day just to sort of keep an eye on things and make sure everybody's maintaining their distance out in the factory part. And then maybe, one or two in from accounting. But when we do come back, it's going to be no more than 8 people in the office on any given day. So, you'll be assigned a day that you're in if you come back at all. And out in the warehouse, we have added Saturday shipping just to ease the load and the number of people that we have in. Our biggest challenge is really on the receiving end, because you getting multiple people inside a container, it's really hard to do that and keep 6 feet apart. So we've had to be a little creative, particularly when it comes to some of our heavier, furniture pieces that, one person can't do on their own. So we're looking at some new technologies to help us work through that. In terms of the showrooms, we're in all the market centers, of course, and New York is clearly still closed. Atlanta is semi-open by appointment, and Dallas, I think, is the same, although I think Dallas is a little further along in the opening doors. And same thing, everyone's got to wear a mask, and that's just our policy. And, we've had to ask, we had a truck driver come into the factory a couple weeks ago who refused to wear a mask, and, told him he can't come back, get out. And, we're not afraid to have those conversations, because it's for the safety of our teams and for themselves.
That's really important. Jean, you talked about, pivoting really quickly and getting your marketing team working off, they're working from home and all of that. Do you foresee people at Palecek continuing to work from home? Will everybody come back to the office? And how
Absolutely. We quickly moved on the CDC safety requirements as well. So in all of our entrances, there's a wash station. You have to wash your hands, and somebody that's attending the entrance has to witness that. You get your temperature checked as well. We provided everybody with masks and gloves, along with workspace and hand sanitizers. So, and then in addition to that, we've educated everyone on what they need to do. Our CEO, Sue, and our Chief Creative Officer, Andrew Palecek, would send out a daily update as we were learning things about, the virus or what we could do to take care of ourselves. They send it out every day. So there's a big part of that was education. So in our warehouse, we did a lot of reconfiguring. In the office, there's going to be a limit to how many people. So in my marketing group, there's a big office where we have 3 people in their cubicles. We won't allow that. So, they'll have to communicate. I want to go in the office today. The other person will stay home. And that's how we're going to manage it going forward. The operations, we reconfigured that, like I said, the flow. And there were challenges, like Comer said about like the sewing room, the upholstery. That was normally kind of like a tight space. And so we just had to like separate and, pull people apart. And then with our showrooms, we have something very similar. In our corporate showroom in Dallas is open right now. We've created these big signs that talk about, our employees and our clients. Their health and safety is very important to us. And there's some requirements. So we provide masks, we provide gloves, and then we have sanitizing stations throughout the showroom. Mm-hmm. We are encouraging appointments so we can be prepared, and also virtual tours. So that's kind of as we're rolling out our corporate showrooms, that's how we're going about it.
Are you seeing traffic? Because I know some of your showrooms are open, like Dallas is open. Are you seeing any traffic at this point? Yeah,
we've been giving it out virtual tours. I mean, people are feeling very comfortable in doing that. I don't know how many people are actually going into Dallas. It just opened up this week. We just are really making a big announcement about it tomorrow. Our showroom manager there has been reaching out to his clientele individually, letting him know that he's there and available by appointment.
We are definitely seeing people in the showrooms, but I will say that the buildings themselves don't necessarily have their policies all locked in and nice and neat. So it's a little bit chaotic and confusing trying to get in at that level. particularly in Atlanta, because, you know, they're under major construction. So, you know, a big piece of the lobby is already closed off anyway. So I think they're still working through how to communicate, you know, your entry points and how you get registered, how you get your temperature taken. You know, I was down a couple weeks ago and it was a little on the fly. And I think they're still working through how to get it, you know, honed in and really have, and I think until they can do that in a very systematic and organized fashion, you know, the idea of going back to these shows in August, you know, it's not going to be onesie twosies appointment only. You know, they're going to be talking about, you know, certainly not that we're not expecting the number of people we normally would see in a summer market, but there's going to be a volume of people that they're going to have to figure out those processes and how do you move people in effectively and safely and make them feel good about being there.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree with you. We're experiencing the same thing. All of these design centers are going about this differently. So that's why we felt like we really had to establish some guidelines and rules just for it being in our own showroom. I mean, it's a big noticeable poster. So, you know, like you can't overlook what you have to do. We have a table, we have the whole station, you know, where we're giving out the masks and gloves if you don't have them on already.
Yeah. I think that is the thing that makes this the hardest, actually, is how differently each region is feeling, or, you know, in terms of even their own, you know, government and how they're operating. And it's a challenge. You know, I said early on with our vice president of sales, you know, one of the things that I see the biggest challenge is, you know, I don't know, looking at any of you on the screen, how you're feeling about this right now. And, you know, I think that over communication is really important. I had an employee who was delivering something to High Point the other day, and he said, you know, I just want you to know, I'm not 100% comfortable, but I'm here. I've got my mask, and I appreciated the fact that he immediately let me know where he was. And I think that's going to be critical to all of us, probably.
Completely agree. You know, I had this conversation this morning with my boss, Andrew. So we were in our county where our facility is, they opened it up where we could come back to work because we're in manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And so what Andrew and I were talking about is we need to have a one-on-one conversation with the team, because we want to see how they're feeling, you know, because you bring up a good point. You don't know how all of us are handling this or dealing with it. And then we also are providing information on their rights, you know, now, you know, as an employee, and whether or not they could come back or not, or if they're ready to or not. Mm-hmm. So, you know, having all that, you know, laid out for them is important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jean, so from all of this, and for our audience, if you want to ask questions, we will be taking questions in a couple of minutes. But what do you find has been the most challenging aspect of all of this for you personally and for the business?
That's a great question. I've been going to High Point for almost 25 years. And, you know, what I love being around all the reps. It's such a great team. I learn a lot by showing up to the show. They tell me what they're doing, what they need, and, you know, gives me a better sense for what we could do to support them. I love walking the editors through. I'm very passionate about our product and the way we present it. I actually set up our showroom in High Point with my visual merchandising manager, and we have a blast because we are really creative. We try to make it feel fresh and completely different from the previous show. So I miss not, you know, having the editor's breakfast and walking them through and showing them all of the new items. So I miss that the most.
Jenny, how has this impacted you personally, and, you know, from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Jean said. You know, at Currey, we love to create an experience in our showrooms. So as much as our product is outstanding, a lot of people come see us at market because they want to have a nice glass of champagne, and they want to eat organic food from the Currey garden down in Georgia, and they want to see the bonsai trees that our owner Brownlee, you know, carefully crafts and very meticulously hauls up from Atlanta for each market season. So missing out on the experiential part definitely, you know, it hurts. And when I mentioned that I went to the to America's Mart 2 weeks ago, walking into that showroom, like, oh, look, product and stuff, it's our space. And it just, again, it's that 3D experience because everything feels so flat right now. I think personally, it's Zoom fatigue. It's the challenges of having a school-age child at home, living 24 hours a day with all of them, like, geez. I think that, we're all doing fine, but it is, I think, your next big business investment will be like girls' weekends and solo vacations. And, we've all had a lot of family time. So, we'll all be looking for ways to find, different opportunities to do things apart from one another too.
Yes, we all hear that. Comer, how about for you? How has this been challenging for you personally from a business perspective?
Yeah, personally, I agree with Jenny. I mean, I silver lining is the time with my family, which is priceless and been priceless. But, it is having my husband working from home and then my 3 kids working from home, plus I'm homeschooling a 5-year-old, and there are days that I want to pull my hair out. But, as I said, I think before we started, I mean, that in is a silver lining that, I'm really more real with people now than I've ever been in my career in terms of, listen, yes, I am a working, mother right now, and it is nuts. And I'm not as apologetic as I used to be. So I think that's a challenge. I echo back to what Jean said, and Jenny, the connections, the experiential side of what we do is so hard not to have. We can do so much digitally, but it is not replicate, walking into a room and being, overwhelmed by what we all do and what our coworkers do. That, kind of refueling your creative energy in that way. It's hard to do it in the same way online, I think.
It really is. I can tell you from an editorial perspective, we go to so many markets and we go to, we're at shows, we're at what's new, what's next in New York, we're all over the place. And while mostly at market, by the end of the day, you just I love coming into the Century showroom so I can sit down on a comfortable sofa. And you think, oh, at market, your feet hurt, your back hurts, everything hurts. You run like a crazy person, you're tired, but not having been there this April is it's disheartening because it is where we have all of our connection. It is where we all see each other and all of the new product, and it's magical. And it really is different without that there.
It makes you appreciate it so much more, doesn't it?
It really, really does. It's like, you know what? I don't want to get on a plane, but I do want to get on a plane because it would be really nice to go to a market and see everybody and get to experience all of those wonderful things that there are at market. And I think that probably retailers and designers feel that way too, and are struggling with that as well. They're also struggling because doors have been closed. Business is slow. Some designers are doing phenomenally well. Others are not getting the new jobs that they would normally be seeing. Are there any things that you guys are putting in place to help your customers as they get back on their feet, especially with orders with, pushed up, maybe, I can't think of the word, maybe like they can pay you a little bit later or they can pay out over time. Is there anything that you're doing to help them so that they can continue to bring in stock in their stores or continue to work with their clients and be able to get back up and running over the next few months? Jean?
Well, our sales team has been reaching out to our client base, and it's all really about case by case. We have some great partnerships, and we really feel for everyone that has shut down. And so, for example, like in California where we were shut down longer, that's really tough. And so I know that they've been doing their individual outreach and managing it case by case.
Okay. Jenny? How about
Yeah, same thing. We've done a few little discount programs, but again, nothing that we would really advertise to a big customer base. And everybody's situation is different, and so our reps are empowered to work with the ones that they know who who's going to need the help, and they know what carrot to dangle, and that's going to best help them get through this. You know, we want to be as supportive as we can, but we also need to ensure that we're sound and come through this on the other side. So, you know, there's certainly not a broad brush extended terms or large discount program that we have been or would ever offer. It just doesn't suit the nature of our customers, who are all so different in themselves.
Comer?
I agree with exactly that. I mean, I think we are very cognizant of not, you know, one of the things in getting through this is you can't promote yourself out of this.
Right.
This is not, you know, this is not something that any of us have ever lived through before. And I think to think that that's going to be the solution is probably the detriment to a business, honestly. You know, I think taking a personalized approach is very important, because not everybody's been impacted the same way. I saw a great Facebook, you know, post a while back, and I think my brother shared it with me about, you know, we are all in the same storm, but your boat looks very different than mine. You know, somebody else's boat may be, you know, about to capsize, and so, you know, being cognizant of that, I think is, you know, and as delicate as possible with that is important. You know, to your point, you said it when you asked the question, some designers have come through this, you know, with more business than they can handle, whereas others are really struggling and dipping and taking work that they would have never thought of taking before this started. And, you know, we will do what we can, obviously, but our challenge is to keep our business solvent, like Jenny said, you know, and make sure that we are absolutely, you know, have the greatest good in mind, which is our 1,500 associates who are dependent on us, right, to come through this.
Right. Well, we are all in this together, right? And we all need to, you know, to do what we need to do to keep our businesses thriving and to stay connected with our customers and stay connected within the industry, even if we have to do it over Zoom like we're doing right now. I want to thank you, Jean, Ogden, Jenny York, and Comer Ware so much for your insights on how business is faring during this crisis and how you're going to be going forward. They've been really, really wonderful. I think that does it for us today. Thank you again. Thank you to Comm Collective for putting this together. And this will be available. I believe Comm Collective will have this available, and we will try to share this with our YouTube. Wait, we have a question which did not come up on my question. Oh, thank you. So from Keith. We'll share this on our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure that everybody gets to see this where they want to if they weren't able to be here today. Thank you again, Jean Ogden from Palecek, Jenny York from Currey and Company, Comer Ware from Century Furniture. Your insights were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, good to see you. Everybody take care.
Good to see you. Hope to see you soon in person.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.